There is someone in your life who rarely speaks, who sits quietly while everyone else talks, who never brags, never argues, never explains themselves. And somehow, they are always the most respected person in the room. That is not a coincidence. Science knows exactly why. We live in a world that rewards noise. Loud people get attention. Loud people get followers. Loud people dominate meetings, dominate conversations, dominate social media. So most of us learned, if you want to matter, you have to speak up. You have to be heard. You have to take up space with your words. But here is what nobody tells you. The research tells a completely different story. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer at New York University ran a series of studies on this. He found something that most people never want to hear. When you tell people your goals, your brain actually starts to feel like you have already achieved them. The praise and validation you receive from others mimics the feeling of real accomplishment. And as a result, your motivation drops. You feel satisfied before you have done anything. Think about that for a moment. Every time you announce what you are going to do, you are secretly stealing energy from actually doing it. The people who stay quiet about their plans are not being mysterious. They are being smart. There is a Japanese concept called harajuku. It has no direct English translation. But roughly, it means the most effective communication happens in silence, not in words. Research published in 2015 found that Japanese people are comfortable sitting in silence with others for up to 8 seconds without feeling anxious or rejected. But Americans, just 4 seconds of silence in a conversation is enough to make them feel uncomfortable, rattled, like something is wrong. For seconds, we are so uncomfortable with silence that we will fill it with anything. Meaningless words, nervous laughter, opinions we do not even believe, just to avoid those 4 quiet seconds. But the people who can sit in silence without flinching, they have something most people do not. They have control over themselves. And that control, that ability to be still when everyone else is restless, that is what other people sense. That is what earns respect without a single word being spoken. Let us talk about what silence actually does to your brain. Psychology Today published research showing that silence activates something called the brain's default mode network. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-reflection, creativity, and deep thinking. It only turns on fully when you stop talking. When you are constantly filling space with words, your brain never gets the chance to go deep. You stay on the surface. You react. You respond. You fill silence. But when you are comfortable being quiet, your brain starts processing things at a level most people never reach. You start to see patterns. You start to notice things. You start to understand situations before others even realize something is happening. This is why the quietest person in the room often sees everything. They are not just sitting there. They are processing. They are observing. They are 10 steps ahead while everyone else is still talking about step 1. Here is something most people get completely wrong about silence. They think silence means weakness. They think if you do not defend yourself, you must have nothing to say. They think if you do not argue back, you must have lost. But watch what actually happens when someone stays silent in the face of criticism. The person attacking them keeps going, gets louder, gets more aggressive, eventually starts to look unstable, starts to look like the problem. And the quiet person, just by staying still, has won the entire situation without saying a single word. Ancient Stoic philosophers understood this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. The moment you stop needing to respond to every provocation, you become free in a way that most people never experience. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the fullest expression of it. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Research from Harvard University found that highly sensitive people who feel things deeply, who think carefully before acting, these people tend to stay quiet specifically because their brains respond more intensely to stress than average. For years, science labeled this as a weakness. Too sensitive, too quiet, too much. But the same research found something else. These same people, the quiet ones, the careful ones, they are also the ones who notice details others miss. They are the ones who pick up on how someone is feeling before that person has said a single word. They are the ones who understand situations at a level that loud, reactive people simply cannot access. The world told them their sensitivity was a problem, but their sensitivity was actually the source of their greatest strength. Think about the people you respect most in your life. Not the people who talk the loudest. Not the people who had the most opinions. Not the people who filled every silence with more words. The people you truly respect, they probably spoke carefully. They probably listened more than they talked. When they did say something, it meant something. Because their words were rare, their words carried weight. This is called the scarcity principle in psychology. When something appears often, its perceived value drops. When something is rare, its perceived value rises. Your words are no different. When you speak constantly, your words become background noise. People stop listening. They wait for their turn to talk. They half hear you. But when you speak rarely and carefully, people lean in. People remember what you said. People repeat your words to others. Silence is not just power. Silence is strategy. There is one more thing science found about quiet people that almost nobody talks about. A 10-week study published in the Journal of Occupational and Organizational Psychology in 2025 tracked the dynamics of speaking up versus staying silent over time. What they found was this. People who spoke up constantly in group settings experienced higher emotional exhaustion. Their energy was constantly being spent, constantly being drained. But people who were more selective about when they spoke, they preserved their energy. They were less exhausted. And when they did choose to speak, they had more clarity, more focus, and more impact than the people who had been talking all along. Your silence is not just protecting your power. It is protecting your energy. And energy, in this life, is everything. So why do most of us still choose noise over silence? Because silence is uncomfortable. Silence forces you to be alone with your own thoughts. And for many people, that is the most frightening place they have ever been. Silence asks you questions you have been avoiding. It shows you things about yourself you have been hiding behind words and busyness and noise. This is why the most powerful thing you can do is learn to sit in silence without running from it. Not because silence makes you look mysterious, not because it is a game or a trick, but because inside that silence, you will find the version of yourself that is clear, that is calm, that is not controlled by every reaction, every opinion, every word someone throws at you. Inside silence, you will find who you actually are. The world will keep rewarding noise for a while longer. Loud opinions, fast reactions, constant talking. But slowly, the people who stayed quiet will emerge. Not because they were waiting for permission, but because they were building something in the silence that noise could never create. Clarity, strength, presence. The quietest person in the room is not invisible. They are just not ready to show you what they know yet. And when they do, you will remember it for the rest of your life.